Hello everyone, welcome to our today's discussion on the music industry here at NIMPA. On YouTube, find us at NIMPA Digital Media, and on Facebook, find us at Nairobi Institute of Music and Performing Arts. Today we are hosting Mr. Levi Wataka, who is a music educator, an orchestral conductor, and I hope he does explain what that is, and a rugby coach. Karibu sana, Mr. Levi.
Thank you very much, Jenny. It's a pleasure to be here.
It indeed is.
Thank you for the invitation.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Karibu. Now tell us about yourself.
Well, as you've said, I teach music.
Uh-huh.
So I'm a teacher of music and I'm a teacher of sports. I like to say, maybe I'll explain later with time, but I don't teach music or I don't teach rugby.
Okay.
I teach through music.
Oh, okay.
So we do a lot of work. I'm involved in a lot of the developmental work for music education in Kenya. So we work through the Art of Music Foundation. So we work with Ghetto Classics.
Okay.
And we work with the National Youth Orchestra of Kenya. And then I also work closely with the Safaricom Youth Orchestra, which are all developmental in the educational sense. So
Okay.
not only do we teach music, but we use music to try and establish wider social, cultural, and educational structures for Kenya.
Okay.
And I'm a school teacher. I also teach in a
All
school.
right. Yes, you talked about the orchestra, and I'm very sure that not everyone who will be watching us will have an understanding of what the orchestra is. So could you simplify that for someone who doesn't have that understanding? What is an orchestra, and when you talk about orchestral conductor, what is that?
What
or
is
what
that?
does it
Okay.
entail?
That's a good question. I'm happy that now in 2020, it's not as a far-flung idea as it was 20 years ago, 15 years ago when we started.
Indeed.
An orchestra is basically a group of instruments playing together. That's what forms an orchestra. It's a group of instruments playing together. Traditionally, it has developed into a certain specific form
Okay.
because music across all cultures has always been made by blowing.
Okay.
So most cultures have got some kind of horn, a cow horn, or that they blow in. Most cultures have a string instrument of some kind, which they either pluck or they scrape using a bow. And most cultures have got drums, okay, rhythm, any culture in the world. And of course, most cultures have got reeds, some kind of reed instrument like a whistle. And so the orchestra is basically a combination of these regular sounds. So there's a string section, a woodwind section where you get the reed instrument, a brass section where you get what is very close to a horn, and then you have the percussion, which is drums and things that you shake to play. And then what happened in Western Europe over time was that the combinations of these instruments started coming together to form matching sounds. And it developed over several hundred years into what we today call the symphonic orchestra.
The symphonic orchestra.
Yeah.
But you see, so if I take my darama, you know, the one in church, I take
Yes.
my karingaringa,
Yes.
I take my shoro, what else? My whistle. Does that
Yes.
make an orchestra?
Good question. It depends on if you want to speak technically or conceptually.
Okay.
Technically speaking, it's the same way I can take a little thing off this light and tie it to my leg, and I go outside and I say I'm wearing a shoe. Conceptually, it is a shoe, but it might not qualify technically to be called a shoe by the people who are professionals in making shoes. So yes, if you do that, it will be a combination of instruments. For all intents and purposes, it can be an orchestra. You can use it as an orchestra. But technically speaking, for the regular marketplace or for conventional use, then that's a technical discussion.
So tell us about your work as an orchestral conductor.
So it's been a very exciting journey.
Okay.
I'll just tell you.
Tell us about
We have
that.
to be an orchestral conductor wasn't an obvious choice
Okay.
because we did not have orchestral outlets to conduct.
True.
So the biggest part of my career has been building orchestras,
Okay.
and then conducting. I learned conducting in the process of building orchestras. My first job in Kenya specifically was to mobilize communities. So with different people. So at the beginning with the Kenya Conservatory of Music, there was people who came together and thought we should have an orchestra and mobilize people and saying we shall have this space at this time and please come in with an instrument and we'll figure out how to put it together. And then we did the same at Ghetto Classics and the National Youth Orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time we started the National Youth Orchestra, we were able to audition.
Okay.
Because by that time it was 6-7 years later, it was
Mm-hmm.
easier to say, okay, if you play an instrument, come.
Mm-hmm.
So mobilizing and then putting
Okay.
the infrastructure together.
Mm-hmm.
Where to rehearse, how to rehearse, where to get the instruments, where to get the music, and how to learn how to play instruments. So that
Okay.
has been my half of my job.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other half, which is the one that is more visible,
Mm.
is actually rehearsing the music and conducting the orchestra in performance.
Mm-hmm.
And that side of it is it's very exciting once you get there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also quite challenging because there's sometimes when you have 70 people
Mm-hmm.
enjoying playing music who are all experts on their instruments.
Yes.
And so whatever information you're purporting to give them has got to add value. When the instrumentalists look at a conductor and they receive information that adds value to the music, then the whole experience is really wholesome. Once in a while, if you don't do your job properly and the musicians look up and they think, this guy is not helping us, then they can switch off because most of them can't play without you. They don't need
True.
to have you as a conductor.
True.
So my job is to prepare the music, to be very well prepared with the music, to have a very sensitive awareness of what effect the music is creating,
Okay.
so that then you can mold it in real time for the audience. So you have to be listening and reacting in advance to what might happen, making sure nothing is too much, nothing is too little, so everything is right.
Yeah, because I know there are many misconceptions and stereotypes about now the orchestra and at a larger context classical music in Kenya, because most people tend to associate it with the elite or so tell us about your experience with Ghetto Classics, which is which I think is doing so much to get rid of some of these stereotypes that orchestras and classical music is only music for white people or rich people, and with Ghetto Classics we see that your ordinary kid from is Mathare, like from Mathare can actually
Korogosho.
and Korogosho is
Yeah.
Korogosho can actually participate in an orchestra,
Yeah.
and what it does to motivate other maybe aspiring kids or
Yes.
youth.
It started with, traditionally all over the world, including in Europe, orchestra has been viewed as a class thing.
Yes, class
Traditionally,
music.
there was always a certain aura that you had to be invited to the certain palace where the classical musicians would play. And then you peasants out there in the fields, they had folk music, which there wasn't as cultured.
Cultured, yeah.
So that stigma lives on. It was perpetuated especially because the instruments are not cheap.
True.
For
true,
a very
true.
long time, and to right now still, a lot of the orchestral instruments that are still handmade makes them really expensive to get a good quality one. We're beginning to get a lot of development with factory-made instruments, which has brought the costs down. But while the costs were still high, only people who had money to spare could invest in these instruments.
True.
And then the learning of them takes a long time, such that when you get a teacher, it used to be really expensive. It still is quite expensive to pay for music lessons. And what we started to do was figure out a way to get rid of the stigma around the cost of classical music.
Yes.
Now, the real reason, the real inspiration for us to start was not the music itself. It was a mirror of society.
Okay.
It was a message of love and communion, because as a country in Kenya, there's many people who are trying to change the message that Kenya is hopeless. There's so much that if you look at the news and if you look at everywhere, we live in a country where we keep telling ourselves how bad things are.
Yeah, true.
And we don't invest in our hearts. The feeling that we get when the national rugby team does really well, or when Eliud Kipchoge did his challenge with the 159,
Yes,
59.
yes.
That feeling, capturing that feeling, this is our job as educators, as artists. Our job is to invest in our hearts a feeling that you can't quantify, that is bigger than the regular things that we, the day-to-day running. So we in Kenya were inspired by a movement in Venezuela, in South America, where they were able to find a way to establish a really massive orchestral system in the poorest areas.
Okay.
and they dealt with how do you deal with the cost. So some of us traveled to Venezuela, spent some time figuring out how they had done it in the slums there.
Okay.
And to this day, we are still in touch with a lot of the inspiration of
That's
that
really
movement.
good. That's really good.
So the Venezuelan system grew to be called what's called worldwide as El Sistema.
Okay.
And El Sistema has now taken over the world. So there's El Sistema USA, El Sistema England, El Sistema Scotland. It's really high-level quality music in the
Musicianship.
poorest of areas.
Okay.
And so we borrowed a little bit from that. So where we had started doing our music in Korogosho, we thought if we go along those lines, and it works in many different ways. One of the ways it worked for us was
I could imagine.
if you learn three notes,
Yes.
then you teach somebody who doesn't know any note.
Yes.
As you're teaching them one, as you're learning your fourth note,
Yes.
you're teaching this person their first note.
Oh, okay.
And then that means the teaching is
you're building.
generational.
You're actually building a generation of musicians.
Musicians, but then it was more cost effective like that.
Yes.
Because then instead of having so many teachers,
Yes.
every little lesson went so far because everybody shared what they learned.
And
And that is how literally by people sharing everything that they have is how Ghetto Classics has been
That's
built.
really good because it's actually kind of emphasizes the idea that you actually learn more when you teach than
Yes.
when you just the
Yes.
receiver of instruction.
Yes.
Now you talked about music education, and this brings us to one of the areas we are to discuss on, which is the place of a music education in a music industry. Now that you said you're a music educator, and with Ghetto Classics you are actually doing teaching of music. So what do you think is the place of music education or a music training in a music industry? Because you see, these are people, these young kids that you teach, are actually current musicians, and also will take over the industry. So I could only imagine the level of musicianship that we are going to have as a country. But what would you think?
That's very the very simple question is the purpose of an education
Yes.
in any industry is exactly the purpose of a music education in the music industry.
Okay.
If you want to have an aviation industry, you have to teach pilots. That's it. So it's just straightforward like that. But in our context,
Yes.
there's a difference you
There's a
have in your
but.
question.
Yes.
That is not, our industry is different.
It's a little different.
Special in many ways.
Yes.
I'll answer it in two ways.
Okay.
The first way is the relationship of Ghetto Classics to the founder.
Okay.
So the founder of Ghetto Classics is called Elizabeth Joroge.
Yes, Elizabeth, I know her.
And what Elizabeth had was everything that we did not have. So she's a very accomplished musician herself, but she came into Nairobi, having lived abroad, with a passion to do something for music. And she found us there doing our music education, but we didn't have a certain awareness of just how the wider industry can work.
Yes, true.
And that relationship is what has brought Ghetto Classics, because what she did is she allowed us to be able to do music education. And then she brought in the things that we did not have. So she's like, this is what you need to do. And then she was able to take that and basically open the world to us. She was able to go to Safaricom and say, this is what these kids need. And I think the music education...
What do you think it does? Yes.
Yeah, music education should prepare a foundation. Okay, let me see. Without getting too, I'm getting excited. So
No, it's all right. It's all right to be excited.
I'm going too far. I'm going too deep into. Okay, without getting philosophical.
Okay,
just to keep it simple.
True.
In Kenya right now,
Yes.
our music industry is premised on talent and capital.
And popularity.
Yes.
Yes.
But the popularity follows talent and capital.
Okay.
It's premised on that. Talent is God-given. And capital is business. You have money because you
Yes.
have it,
Yes.
and you put those two together. So our industry has gravitated towards a lot of our top artists that I've spoken to do not care where you came from. If I need a trumpeter, I'll take the best trumpeter I can find.
Okay.
People don't have the time to go and find somebody who could be good in 3 years and invest 3 years to get them to where they should be.
Okay.
But they want good quality today. And if
Okay.
you have good quality, you make your money, you're in the industry, and the industry has now run away from society. And people tend to look at society as boring. So if you're doing church music, if you're doing Sunday school music, your
That's-
church youth group, Kenya Music Festival, Kenyatta University music degree,
True.
the industry tends to look at that as really boring and almost pointless,
Yeah.
because the industry hasn't got the patience to see that out of that education is where people, now talented people, super talented people, are able to do what's called a leapfrog. So somebody can come from picking an instrument, then they leapfrog over an educational structure and end up in a top band because they're talented.
All right.
And that's what I mean when I say the industry is premised on talent
Talent and capital.
So if you have some talent and you've got enough money to put out a good video, then you're in the industry. Bam. Nobody really cares about the foundational.
Your musicianship, your level of musicianship.
And now that foundational stuff is the stuff that nobody ever sees.
Yes.
Nobody sees the thousands of hours
That
that
you
it
put
takes an
into
average person
to practice
to come
an
from.
instrument. Yeah,
So
true.
in the industry, we do have people who have put in the thousands of hours because maybe they could afford it or whatever.
Yes.
But when you're on stage watching them, you never think that's a talent person, that's a work person. You think that's good music. Our job in the music education is to create such a firm foundation in society so that our music industry is not floating on capital and talent, but it's actually sitting on an educational foundation.
I think that's what I think I feel bad about being a music educator, is that, you know, as you said, that floating above on talent and capital, and, you know, with the capital nowadays, sometimes even the talent is not there, to be honest. Sometimes even
in the whole world, this is true. If you have enough money, you can go some ways.
True.
You
Sometimes
can go
even
some ways without talent.
even the talent is not there, and you find someone who's really put in the work, you know, in their craft, in the skill, in developing, you know, their level of musicianship. But still, when you put them on the same, you give them the same platform with someone who has, say, talent and some money to, you know, to put around. The one who's really invested in their skill has no, you know, is not able to compete with this other person.
Yes.
As you know, we are an institution that is offering a music education. One of the challenges I usually face is actually convincing a student who wants to come. A student, you know, will come and tell you, "Me, I just want to learn guitar. Once I want to learn that song specifically. You know, this. Show me how to play these chords. Show me how to play this song." Versus, give me the background. Show me how to teach myself how to play this music. And, you know, someone will come. Yes, we have very flexible schedules. But imparting that need for understanding of a real musical education versus I'm able to play this music, you know, with just the least amount of time. And I think that is an effect of, you know, what's happening in the industry, because as long as I can show people that I can play this song so well, I mean, why do I have to spend a whole year learning how to play other different musics? I mean, when I can, you know, I have this short period to show people that I can do this. So for me, it's in there, but we're just figuring out as we go on how to deal with it.
You see, our challenge as educators is converting philosophy to societal level language. So the fundamentals of our existence haven't changed.
Okay.
We are the same people we've been for thousands of years, and we have just as much time as we have in a day as people had thousands of years ago. We have to eat.
Yeah, true. We have
get
to
sick,
eat.
we die.
True, we do
We
have to
have
eat.
the same human impulses. So people need love, people need security, people need to procreate, people need to continue the race, the human race. So we have created a notion of life that is away from who we fundamentally are.
Oh, okay.
And that is, it's difficult for us to talk about the purpose of education without getting into some of the basic philosophy of what education is.
It's true.
Now, what you've described there is perfect because it is true of our industry,
Yes.
but it's also true of the world.
Yeah, true.
Now, the way I would, when I talk to parents or when I talk to students who are old enough to discuss this,
Yes.
I work very hard to get the message across that we did not create music. Music exists.
Okay.
If you go in nature, if you look at a flower, if you listen to the rain, we live in a world that is such full of fundamental music.
Music, true.
And the music only comes to us through very sensitive perception and awareness as human beings. So most people, music education or not, can look at a sunset and feel something that they can't explain in words.
Okay.
It starts getting metaphysical. You start thinking, does God exist? Like, this is such beauty. There's music. Now, we need to teach us. That's what a music education should do. You learn music. A music instrument, for example, is then what you use to bring out the music that you already have.
Hold that thought. Let us take a break. See you in a few. The music department at NIMPA offers two main courses, and these are music performance and music technology. Both courses are offered under the instruction of well-qualified instructors, working with well-renowned and established industry mentors, and very qualified tutors. We offer courses that are 80% practical, giving opportunities for skill development to our students, and at the same time, trying to offer a personalized learning experience for each and every student. The global attitudes towards the creative industry are evolving, and we at NIMPA believe that each unrefined skill, talent, and passion should be nurtured to an economically, socially, and spiritually empowering level. So, if you want to be a change maker in the music industry, NIMPA is a place to be.
Nairobi Institute of Music and Performing Arts, NIMPA. We offer short courses, certificate, and diploma in music performance, music technology, film production, theater arts, animation, graphic design, and DJing. Nairobi Institute of Music and Performing Arts, nurturing talent for self-actualization.
Hello everyone and welcome back. So, where were we?
Thank you. I think we were talking about the purpose of a music education.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember my trail of thought at the time, but what we were saying is, as music educators,
Yes.
we cannot avoid a basic level of philosophy.
True.
Any education has got to be based on the fundamental nature of who we are as a society, as a culture, as a people. And we as music educators, our job is really to capture as much of ourselves in a foundational sense as people are growing up.
Okay.
And on top of that, then you build a technical education where you learn how to play an instrument and you use it. Now, I was saying that the music that we experience in nature in a beautiful country such as Kenya, there are things that you cannot express in words.
True.
We've got beauty, we've got animals, we've got valleys, and that is our land, that is where we live. And we create an awareness and openness of the heart. That's what we should be doing. People to understand such boundless beauty, what our minds can fathom, what we can enjoy. And then convert that into expressible thing through
something
music.
that can be seen, yes.
Yes. Now, a music instrument, what happens is once you've learned how to operate an instrument, it really has no meaning until there was something in your heart.
You give it some heart, right?
That you wanted to say through the instrument.
Very true.
So if the music educator, our principal job, especially for younger children, is to establish, to open up our hearts and our minds to the possibilities of what music can do. And then you get technical. As people get older and they get more advanced and they come to, for example, somebody comes to a college such as yours and says, I would like to learn music. Chances are something has sparked them.
Very true.
Of all the trades they could learn, they could have gone to do carpentry.
Very true.
So when they come to you, it's because there's something in their heart. And what you guys do is you
nurture. We're supposed to
invest
nurture
in that
it,
spark.
invest in that, right?
Yeah, and then by sometimes, just to quote a bit of what you said earlier, sometimes the nurturing needs you to pull someone back.
Okay.
Because somebody could have been inspired by a pop song that they really enjoy, and they want to learn to play that pop song. And what you do is you open up their mind
to
the
the
music.
possibilities.
Yes, and you say, yes, you can play that pop song, but actually,
you can play more.
Before you play that pop song, why don't you just play music?
Oh, okay.
Just play music, and then you can play that pop song as well as. But because that pop song by itself is musical.
It's true.
But what you want to do is, as an educator, now as an industry person,
Yes.
it's fine to just do the pop song. But
True.
as an educator, you're like, yes, let's teach.
You know, I think I was telling you this before, that the funny thing is, with the young ones, there are those ones who will come and tell you, I just want to learn how to play, a few chord progressions so that I can, the 1-4-5 chord progression,
Yes.
6 minor, so that I'm able to play, the popular music of today.
Yes.
And if that's all, and then you ask them, what about the background? What about the music theory? They're like, no. And then now there is this other angle that I'm finding. I've been, I've seen that popular musicians, someone who is actually very good on a guitar or an instrument, they want to come back and learn the theory. They want to understand music more. So you see, it was very, it was amazing for me, because I'll think, hey, but now you're playing for, and I'm actually, speaking of someone, there's this gentleman who's played the Lingala Yesu, the guitar, he's Onesimus, and he's a very good guitarist, from Congo, and they have a reputation.
Yes.
And he's a very good guitarist, but he approached me and told me, I want to come and learn some music theory. Why? Because it's important. Because he's been in situations where a music theory is actually needed, is actually important, and he has seen that gap. So I think as we speak about music education, it's wholesome. It's not just reading the notes, because I think most people think that music education is just I just want to know how to read music, but it's a deeper understanding. It's a deeper understanding of music. It opens your eyes to another level of musicianship.
Yes.
Even.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the key to making a living as a musician lies in diversifying and making a living out of the music industry. What are the avenues of making a sustainable living of one's music career, and especially with a person who has a music education background? What are those avenues? How can I make a living? How can I make money out of my music? I went to school, I studied music. Maybe I did 2 years of a diploma, I did 4 years in a degree. And apart from just being another music educator, what are these other avenues that I have,
Well,
making music or making money out of my music?
the avenues are endless.
Because I think it would be interesting if you shared with us, because I know there are people who just I can either become a singer, or an instrumentalist, or a
Yes.
teacher, and then that's it.
That's
So
it.
what other ways
Well,
can I make money?
The thing is, okay, take it to the market. That's the first thing I'd say. The market is not a nice place.
True.
So I've been there when I first came to the industry after
Okay.
finishing college, and
Okay.
I did not know what I was going to do.
Okay.
So I spent some time at Bruce Odhiambo's studio,
Okay.
Johari Clef, with some mates who kind of, they had figured out what they wanted to do by
True,
then. So
true,
this was
true.
their space, and I was still trying. So I was in the studio trying to figure out. And I was saying to somebody here when I arrived, I'm very intimidated by electricity.
Yeah,
Part
okay.
of that is because I went into this studio, and Bruce says, "Oh yeah, come, get in here, sit with him. He'll show you what to do." And this guy has no time for you, because I got in the studio and I was like, "Oh my goodness, things are like this. You do it or leave." And that's
Yeah.
because those people were seeing real money. This was business. They were not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody went in there today. They thought this 1 hour has to count. So it's really, and that's when I say take it to the market,
Yes.
is because you will learn some lessons very quickly
Okay.
about your avenue. If you want to be a singer, that's fine. Go to the market.
Okay.
Go out there, do it to a real audience. Listen to what the market tells you. If you have the resilience and the thick skin to survive the market, then you'll make a living. For me personally, teaching worked out for me right away.
Okay.
So people came and they saw this passion and they said, "Why don't you come and teach here?" And so I started teaching, and then you get real money because you're doing lessons,
Okay.
but not just teaching for its own sake. So I remember at first when people would ask me, "How much are your lessons?" And to this day, actually, I say I don't charge for my lessons, or I don't charge money. I charge time.
Okay.
So I say, "How you gonna pay me?"
So this is branding. This is basically like
it's-
branding.
I guess, but I didn't look at it like that.
Okay.
I usually honestly believe I still do that.
So you're
when I
not
talk to
charging the lesson,
parents-
you're charging your time.
No. I'm not charging. You're paying me in your time, not my time. This is what I say. So this is how it works. When I talk to parents, like, for you to get somewhere, you have to understand that music is this kind of journey.
Yes.
If you want that, we can work together. But for you to get there, you're going to have to invest time and effort. That's my payment.
Okay.
Because if you invest time and effort, you will discover wonders that are not accessible. And once you discover those wonders, you say, I want more. And then they call you and they say, teacher, come here. This is something really exciting then we walk this journey together. And that is how I've always approached my teaching, which has allowed me to be able to do the conservatoire, Ghetto Classics, National Youth Orchestra. These are all fully voluntary things. But the things that have come out of those.
That.
So my first full-time job was because of
That.
a direct recommendation. Somebody said, hello, how are you? This is St. Andrew's Turi.
Yeah.
I was director of music at St. Andrew's Turi.
Wow. Okay.
And it was because they were like, oh, an opening came up, we need a director of music.
Yes.
And somebody in this great Nairobi, so I found out later it was a guy called Richard Moss,
Okay.
who had seen what we were doing. Now, that I was slightly mad.
Okay.
Because everybody, including my parents, were thinking, what the heck are you doing? Why don't you get a job like normal people and just...
Let me just, I need this clarification. All this while that you're investing your time, there is no, is there like any financial gain?
There was, so the thing is, what happened is I had piano students and clarinet students at the conservatoire, and I had my regular job, but I ended up creating creating a difference between my job and my work. So what I did is I have my job which pays me.
Okay.
So I go to the job because it pays me and I can pay rent and do this.
Yes.
And then as soon as I'm comfortable and I've been paid, I do my work, which is what I live for. And what happened is the openness, the ability to build so much.
Yes.
So I go to St. Andrew's Turi, and everybody was like, what? Director of music, St. Andrew's Turi. I was like 26, 27 years old.
Oh, okay.
And then St. Andrew's Turi has had a history of British teachers.
Yes, yes.
So it used to be like, how did you end up being director? We would understand if you're just like a music teacher.
Yes.
How did you end up being director of music?
Yes.
I was like, to be very honest, I don't know. So when I got there, and then they threw this at me and it's like, listen, we are taking a risk with you. You're young, we don't know how experienced you are.
Yes, you are.
We're going to give you a 9-month contract.
Okay.
While we recruit officially in the UK and to get a proper director of music.
Yes.
So basically, you have 9 months to prove yourself.
That you can actually
and
do
thankfully,
this.
I had a few mentors who were like, this is what you do. So it's like Winnie Moretti from Winton.
Yes, Winton Music School.
And Atigala Levi.
Okay.
These guys like Moses Watatua, and
Yes.
my top mentor is a guy called Njane Mugambi.
Okay.
These guys were like, listen, you have an opportunity. This is what you do. Do not let yourself down.
All right.
Be disciplined, be focused, be hardworking, be virtuous, the things that carry. And so in the end, they said, okay, wait, this is guys, we're going to confirm you because you keep the job. Now, that has worked out. The way it has worked out for me, and I think to answer your question is, as a music educator, now I won't speak about the industry because that's a different...
It's a different discussion, I think.
What you call show business and entertainment.
Yes.
It's a different business space. But for music education, it cannot be a retail business. You cannot make your living in music education by counting hours and exchanging for every... So it cannot be that kind of thing.
Okay.
It can be, but it really limits the possibilities.
All right.
It has got to be the foundation. The transactional part of music education, where you pay me to teach you, has got to only be the beginning.
And then there's also the value addition to yourself as a music educator, because I think I have been in that, I think I'm a culprit of, the lesson, let's do this lesson, and then you pay me and then I'm done, let's do another lesson, however, the number of lessons. And then you realize that, I think at some point, it gets draining because you realize you're too, you're too lost in the transactional nature of it's now a job. It becomes a job.
Becomes just a job.
You barely have time to add value to yourself as a musician. So the growth is like, no, like you're not growing. So I think it's for good success. I think this is my opinion. For that kind of interaction to be successful, you've got to create a good balance between the how much you get to transact, and then how much you get to actually add value to yourself and grow.
I think I'm going to take that away with me.
All right.
Because what you've said is exactly what education is.
Okay.
We are not in the business of transacting content.
All
We're in the
right.
business of adding value
Value.
to anything that an educator touches.
Mm-hmm.
If a child comes into your classroom
Mm-hmm.
and they live happier,
Mm-hmm.
they live more peaceful, they live more, and when you're open to adding value, you will automatically find yourself adding value to yourself. You'll find yourself investing in traveling the world or taking some more lessons or getting better yourself. And then the transactional part becomes, because people want to come back to you. They're like, teacher, there was something in your class that I want to come back to. And it wasn't just because you told me how to press
Yes.
on the instrument. It was because you did something else.
Something
And,
more
and that's
than
I think
that.
is the key to music educators. Music educators don't go into music education if you want to transactionally make a living. Just to, if you want, especially if you want to make a good profit,
Yes.
sell potatoes.
Okay.
Yeah, go to the market and just do business where you can
And
transact.
cabbages.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
make money. Go to. But for me, for education, not just music education, I feel very strongly about sports education as well, because that value will never go away.
Okay.
Once you invest properly, I think retired teachers, it doesn't matter how much money they have, good teachers have got their students coming back in waves over years. People saying this teacher made a big difference. We had a teacher recently who fell sick,
Okay.
and her old students just literally sorted out a massive part of her hospital bill
Oh,
and
that's-
everything.
that's
And it's
really
like, oh,
nice.
teacher so and so,
Yes.
this is what we do.
Wow. All right. I think that has been a worthwhile discussion.
Thank you.
Do you have any parting shot? Anything that you would like to tell us?
First of all, thank you
Uh-huh.
to NIMPA for hosting me here today and for sharing. Thanks for all the insights, because
Yes.
I feel like you allowed me to speak passionately
Yes,
about
yes,
what I
yes,
care
yes,
about,
yes,
which I
yes,
really
yes.
care about.
This is that safe space.
Yes,
Eh?
and then also you shared what you guys have and what you do here. So I'm happy to hear for that. I would say, please, if you're in Nairobi, look for the Nairobi Institute of Music and Performing Arts. Yes, please visit them and see what they do.
Yes.
And actually, let's all together keep adding value
True.
through music.
Thank you
education.
very much. Thank you very much, Levi,
Most
for
welcome.
honoring our invite.
Thank you.
This has been really, really a worthwhile discussion. I think it's making. I think these are some of the discussions you have probably somewhere in our interactions as
Yes.
musicians, but we've never been able to bring them out. And I think today was a very good experience. So thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned at NIMPA Digital Media on YouTube and Nairobi Institute of Music and Performing Arts on Facebook. Thank you and God bless you.